Hello, welcome to AI in Action. My name is Maurie, and I'm here with my husband Jim. And unfortunately, it is not Sunday evening. It is actually Tuesday evening. We are a couple of days late dropping this podcast, but that is because I and you have been extremely busy.
Yes, our oldest son
Very excited for him.
got himself a house finally, him and his wife, and that was an ordeal.
Yes,
The cost of houses nowadays,
it's outrageous.
it's unbelievable. And the interest rates and the cost of houses, they wonder why people are having such a difficult time buying houses.
Yes. So they're young. He's not quite 30 yet, and they're
It's a
newly
beautiful
married.
house.
And do what?
It's a beautiful house.
Beautiful home. They went ahead and got one that's like going to be big enough if they decide to have a family, which they are saying that eventually they will. But right now it was a move. It was like an hour and a half from where they were currently living. And so I was there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I was exhausted. So basically I slept all day yesterday. So anyway, we are here to talk about artificial intelligence, which I'm sorry that we didn't do this on Sunday. I'm sure your head is about to explode, Jim, because you probably have things that you want to talk about.
I've been spending a lot more time lately deep diving into creating Agnes 2.0.
Yes.
So it's really harder to talk about Agnes 2.0 stuff on our podcast. It's one of those things where you would, do I want to get into the details of how you create a chatbot, or an integrated tool for AI? Does anybody really want to hear all the technical details?
Maybe later.
Maybe later.
Okay.
So let's just talk about our own news first.
Yeah, we have some things that are going on. We were asked to be on somebody else's podcast, which is kind of cool. Very nice gentleman, Dr. Craig Hansen. He actually works for the New Zealand Ministry of Education. And got to say, the accent is awesome.
I know you love the accent.
Very nice man. We had a long conversation about artificial intelligence. So if you guys have a chance, it's Dr. Craig Hansen. You can check out that podcast that Jim and I were both on. And then I was asked to be part of an AI for Education panel with some other people, very interesting people. The person who put on the podcast is Alfonso Mendoza, or he goes by Fonz. Wonderful person. The podcast is called My Ed Tech Life. He has been podcasting for a long time about ed tech, not AI necessarily, but anything to do with educational technology. So much so that he's on like episode 290 or something like that. And
I gotta ask,
okay,
did you call him the Fonz?
No, but he mentioned that. I mean, he's so nice. But 290, almost 290 episodes. He's been doing it for a long time. And he just asked some really good questions. We got some really good feedback. I guess my favorite part of the podcast was at the very, very end. He asked the five of us that were on it with him what our AI kryptonite was. Like, what was the thing that bothered us the most about AI?
I don't remember what yours was.
I had two. One of them was how people are like AI experts when they're giving out misinformation about what artificial intelligence is, or and that's always been a little pet peeve of mine. Just because you Google it doesn't mean you understand it, which is why I have you, because believe me, I don't understand all of it. But the other thing, and the big kryptonite for me, was the cost. The cost involved in providing artificial intelligence into K-12 education for students to use. The cost of the tools has just got to come down. Now, we did have a talk with somebody the previous week from Weaver Technologies, who he handles like large servers and big like installations for
they do the
GPUs, and
they do the back end stuff when you're actually building, you're not just creating an interactive AI like I did with Agnes originally, but
right.
You're actually training your own model from scratch, or you've got this massive inferencing engine that you want, so lots and lots of people are going to use it like you would at a university. They build high-speed back ends.
Right, but one of the things that he mentioned that it kind of like clicked for me when he said it, I've been really complaining about how why aren't they giving this for free to K-12 education? Give it for free to K-12 education. Let's get the kids trained on this, that the kids are the future. I've been on my high horse about it. And he commented that we didn't have the capacity to give it away for free yet.
I mean, OpenAI is giving it away, they've been giving away for free for a long time. But if you want the really good models, you have to pay for it. But they do talk about it. I mean, I think OpenAI and Microsoft are talking about $100 billion facility that's chock full of GPUs that does nothing other than allow people to do lots of inferencing. There's a different problem when you talk about capacity for creating models from scratch versus in what I call inferencing engines, what everybody calls them. Well, maybe not everybody.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think
Anyway,
I call it
the
that.
inferencing part of it is when you ask it a question and it answers you. And what people don't maybe or may not realize is the training takes the most horsepower. But when you have a lot of people doing it, when it's answering all those questions, it takes a lot of juice.
Right.
I mean, even Google, before AI was, Google's used machine learning for a long time. Google has like 2 million servers worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big number.
Yeah.
And now they're talking about these inferencing backends for these chat bots or these different AI tools. And
aren't they thinking about like all the Bitcoin
well, some
facilities?
of the crypto miner people have transitioned because they were losing their shirt because in the crypto mining, and they've transitioned some of their facilities over to doing inferencing. So yeah, all those GPUs are hopefully not going to go to waste.
Okay. Well, maybe eventually the cost will come down for K-12 education. That would be awesome. I know that we were really excited about Saul Khan and Khan Academy and how
Hold on, you're slipping ahead. You can get the rest of the news.
Well, I'll get to that in a minute. Saul Khan Academy was giving away for free their Conmigo, I think is what it's called, and it's a teacher tool. And I was really excited about it because I was like, oh, one-on-one tutoring for students.
Which he announced, he talked about a year ago.
Right.
When you and I watched that TED conference, and that's what we were excited about.
We were thinking, yes.
we even talked about it in our different conferences we talked in about this idea of the value, the 2 sigma increase,
yes.
In
one-on-one
tutoring and what it does for students learning and that kind of stuff. So we've been excited about it for a long time.
But that was not what he was giving away for free.
No, not yet.
I'm hoping that eventually he'll get additional funding to where he will be able to give it away for free. Because right now it's like $35 a year.
It's $9 per month per user.
And that's way too much. We could not afford that. Yeah,
we have 2,000 students.
Yeah, that's like $67,000.
Even if you just go to our high school, we have 500.
Yeah.
Students.
Well, with all the students, if all the students had it, I think we calculated it'd be over $67,000 a year for the students to have the one-on-one tutoring. But as I commented, and I actually sent a little LinkedIn message directly to him. I don't know if he'll get it, but I was like, what about a 35 pack for 3 months? Because really, when you want the one-on-one tutoring, it's after you've done the benchmarking. It's after you've done some of the tests to see where the kids are missing very specific skills. And then you just go in and you do the small groups and you really hit those skills that they're missing. So if I could do like a 35 student 3-month pack, then it would help a lot just with those small group tutoring sessions that we do at schools. So
well, and to add to that, because there was a vendor a long time ago, I think it might have been Adobe. No, it was the one that does the CAD, AutoCAD. They had a licensing pool, so we could buy 50 licenses
and then only be using it at one time. When a student
was using it,
the license was taken.
But when the student stopped using it, the license went back in the pool.
Freed up. Yeah,
that was fantastic.
Absolutely.
For us because otherwise we would have never been able to afford AutoCAD.
Absolutely.
Because it's a very expensive tool. So if they could do that, or we could buy 50 licenses and use that license pool and then increase the pool if we really start using it a lot, that would help us out tremendously. And hopefully they would not lose money on it. The problem is that the cost of these inferencing, systems, because of the GPUs and the electricity and all that other stuff, it's expensive. And that's what Donnie, he's
at Weaver.
Pointed
out. As I said, I never really thought about it. I was like, wow, light bulb.
I mean, he deals deep in the hardware, so
right.
I'm not surprised.
So,
what else we got going on?
Well, we have some things going on that we're kind of excited about. We're going to be presenting a couple of times, actually, at the TCEA conference in Galveston coming up in June.
Yeah, we don't just go to the TCEA to present. You and I have been going to the TCA conferences
It's a really
for
great
years,
conference.
and we go to them because it's a great opportunity for us to meet vendors that we need at the school district.
And just to get information, because it is a
Yeah.
technology conference for
That is
educators.
correct.
Um,
We went long before AI, but now it's also kind of an added perk because we like talking at these. Years ago, we talked about your makerspace
Yes.
at one of them. At
Yes.
this one, actually, in
Yes.
Galveston, we did a presentation on your makerspace you're doing.
Yes, I have. And then we're also going to do some of their online conferences coming up. They have one that's called AI in Education that they're sponsoring, that we're going to be speaking at that one. And then they have one that's like a librarian conference that we're going to be talking about AI at the librarian conference coming up.
The librarian one.
Yes, we are.
They're not going to be hostile, are they?
No, not at all. Because
No.
it's specifically, it's an AI for libraries. So hopefully, hey, we were surprised when we went to the National Literacy
The
Conference.
literacy one, we were expecting.
We
have
were
fruit
surprised
thrown
at that
us.
one. And then we just got word that we've been asked to speak again as a featured speaker at the Science Conference, or CAST.
I love
CAST
those people.
25. Was that going to be 24? Might be 24. I think it's in October.
It's
So
in 24. It's
yeah,
in October.
it's
in
a few.
October,
It's a few months away. It's a few months away. So
It
that is in San Antonio this year.
It was
So-
in Houston last year.
So we have some things that we have coming up, as I say, in the hopper. My little file folders are getting bigger and bigger. And of course, at our day jobs, we have last week of school this week. We're
Yes.
taking up Chromebooks. I was taking up Chromebooks today, and I used artificial intelligence.
Yes.
I
you
was
did.
very proud of myself. First thing I thought about, we're taking up Chromebooks at our high school. And so we're looking at, 500, 550 students. And we had a well-oiled machine. I mean,
It
we
is.
have it down to an art form, taking these
Yes.
things up. We got all of the Chromebooks taken up, except for seniors who we're doing tomorrow. We got all of the freshmen, sophomore, and juniors Chromebooks taken up, looked at, chargers, everything, and
Cleaned.
it cleaned in 2 hours. Okay. And that's like calling them out of class time too.
Yeah.
So we've got it down to an art form, but there's some language barriers there. We have some students that whenever I ask them what their ID number is, or I ask them what their student lunch number is, or whatever, they cannot communicate it. And they don't understand what I'm saying. So I pulled out my phone and I pulled up my Chat GPT app on my phone, and the lady sitting next to me was like, "What?" And I just said, press the little button for the voice interaction. And I said, "Can you please say in Spanish, may I have your ID number, your name, and the grade level that you're in?" And it said it to her. And
guess what you could have used? My little rabbit.
I didn't have it.
That's your own fault. I keep trying to get you to use it. And you could just say to it, everything you hear in Spanish, say in English. Everything you hear in English, say in Spanish.
I can do that with 4.0 also.
Yeah, but my little rabbit's got a button on the side. You can just press the button. And
My
away you go.
my phone did just fine. The lady sitting next to me thought it was hilarious though, because I didn't tell it to stop listening, and I forgot to tell it to stop listening. And so I said something like, and I appreciate it, or thank you, or whatever. And it said back to me, it was like, "You're very welcome. I'm so happy I could help you today. Please have a good evening and a good night's sleep." Or I don't know. It was just like, off in the weeds for a second. So the lady sitting with me thought it was hilarious. And she was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm using artificial intelligence to help me break down the language barrier."
Yeah, Google Translate, there's been translation tools for a long time.
I've used them for a long time.
You have used them for a long time. I, first of all, never thought they were very good because we did some translations with them. They weren't bad. The other part was the usability side of it.
Slow.
It was slow. It was clunky to use.
Uh-huh.
The thing about this is that you can literally say everything you hear in Spanish, say in English, and everything you hear in English, and you can use it as a conversational tool. Now, that's with the new
4.0.
GPT 4.0, which we talked about last week.
Mm-hmm.
It's faster and it does streaming better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's able to do these things.
And the area, I didn't have Wi-Fi very well, and it still did just fine. So I was impressed. The girl was happy because she was able to communicate with me, and she was able to give me her Chromebook and get everything taken care of. And so it was good. It was a time saver. I did not have to have an interpreter with me. I didn't have to go find somebody who spoke Spanish. I didn't have to try to find a student who was bilingual to help out. So it was a time saver. So that was interesting. But what else do we have going on? We have only 15 minutes left of the conversation. We've been talking a lot about us, but
Well, we talked about what we've been doing at school and how we use the tools, which I think leads us. There was an article which is a good lead in. It was on the BBC, and this particular one was about. It's called AI products like ChatGPT, much hyped but not much used. Now, this was in England, it's the BBC, and they were talking about very low percentage. They actually they surveyed 12,000 people in 6 countries, including the UK, with only 2% of the British saying they use the tools on a daily basis. And they found similar, I think it's a little more in the US, but it wasn't a lot.
I just saw a Pew report saying that it's 7% in the United States of educators that are using AI on what they would consider regularly. Now, the problem that I had with that number is that I think people are using AI without realizing that they're using AI.
Well,
I think that like when it comes to Gemini or Bing or just some of the search engines that they really have kind of changed the look and feel of it.
yes.
I think they're getting stuff that's generated through those search engines and they're not realizing that that's actually artificial intelligence that's generating those answers.
I think people are starting to, because Google, we talked about it last week. Google's got their search engine, their SGE, they call it or something, but basically it's their search engine that does the generative AI, so it tries to generate the answer and then it shows you where the answer came from, which is what Perplexity does as well.
Mm-hmm.
Perplexity, I think, does a better job than Google. Google's getting hammered on it so bad.
The Wall Street Journal thing that you showed me today showed Perplexity was like number one in quite a few areas.
They had a whole bunch of different areas, personal, entertainment, recipes, search, all that different
coding.
Stuff. And they said, here's the ones that do the best at those. And Perplexity came out on top on quite a few. Which I think it's great because Google's been sitting on their laurels for too long.
Can you tell you where it came in last? Speed.
Perplexity?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not super fast. But then again, they don't have 2 million servers like Google does, and they don't have the resources. I mean, they were kind of a little scrappy startup. I mean, they got money, don't get me wrong, but they didn't have the kind of resources that OpenAI and Google and those people have. The thing that's bothering me right now, and I'm saying this from a personal perspective as much as anything, is the people, there's a term I've used for them several times, but basically the thing is they're the ones that are saying, I told you soers. They're the ones that are saying the hype bubble's going to pop. And they've been saying it forever. And so now
eventually
the hype, what I call AI 1.0, the hype bubble is starting to pop, which we have been telling people it would. And they're saying, see, I told you so, it was overhyped, it's going to go away. Well, it's not. And what bothers me is those people are convincing people that because of this, you can just kind of forget about it and it's just going to go away. It's not going to go away. There's too much money in it. There's too many ways that people can use it.
There's too many breakthroughs. There's too many things it's good for.
And what bothers me the most is the people who take that attitude of we're just going to ignore it. I think it puts them at a competitive disadvantage.
Absolutely.
I use this tool every single day. As an example, I was trying to solve a problem with a piece of software I was using yesterday. And I was going back and forth with ChatGPT because I couldn't figure out how to fix this problem. What was cool about it is that every time it gave me an error message on the screen, I literally typed nothing. I did a screenshot, I pasted it in because I'm using the new 4.0. I pasted it in, I said, this is what I got. And it goes, okay, based on what I'm seeing, you should try this. I went through all the steps. I never typed anything. I literally just did screenshots after the initial prompt, which was, here's a problem I'm having. That kind of tool is valuable.
Very.
What about your medical stuff lately?
Yeah, I've been having some problems. And I had a little conversation with ChatGPT last night. And I was debating, do I need to call the doctor? Or do I need to wait until today? Because, yesterday was a holiday. And so it actually said, hey, you need to go ahead and it's not necessarily an emergency, seek medical attention if this issue. I'm not a doctor. I always give all the disclaimers. But it made me go in to see the doctor this morning and have some blood work done. So
I think if you use it as a medical assistant and you use your brain and you say, okay, I'm just going to let it give me some scenarios. Don't ignore doctor's advice and all that other stuff based on it. But again, we talk about this all the time. If you have if you can't afford medical, I mean, what are your choices?
Well, I will tell you, the first thing I did is I called our son.
Well, of course, he's a
He's
paramedic.
a paramedic,
He
and
just had it. He's not giving out medical
I
advice.
called him.
You just had a
I said,
conversation with
Jacob,
him,
this is what's happened, and I'm a little concerning. And he was like, well, Mom, and he, gave me what he thought.
right?
And then I got on ChatGPT, and basically it verified everything he'd said. And
Yes.
so then I had two sources of information that made me sleep better last night.
Because it's not like you could have gone to the doctor. You'd had to go to the
I would
emergency
have had
room
to
and
go
spent
on 45
$5,000,
minutes to an hour drive, and
and it cost us
it would have
$5,000
cost,
in
yeah,
deductibles.
exactly.
So it wasn't life threatening, but
No.
it was an issue that you, again, because you can do stuff like that. You can have medical conversations. Does it do great with recipes? Well, recently Google just told somebody to keep cheese from slipping off a plate. You put glue on it.
Hey, edible glue.
You can. It did say organic.
It said organic, non-toxic glue.
Non-toxic.
But I'm sorry, have you ever had fondant before that they put on wedding cakes? That stuff's like glue.
But
so,
as you said, also you can make a
paste of some sort.
But anyway, the funny thing was, is I took something out of the refrigerator, which is a little nut mix that I eat that's got chocolate and stuff in it. I looked at the back. I wanted to know if it had something in it. I looked at the back. The back of it was written in Spanish. If I'd ever flipped it over to the front, it was written in English, but I didn't know that. So I just took my phone out and I took a picture of it and I said, does this have almonds in it? And it went through and translated the whole thing into English. And then it said, yes, there are almonds, and this is the Spanish word for almonds. Well, then I flipped it around and saw that it had almonds. But then I said,
you wanted an alternative recipe.
I said, is this healthy? Because I thought it was healthy.
You thought it was, man.
And I thought it was healthy. I said, is this healthy? He goes, what? And it was very politically correct. I mean, it was very nice about it. It said, well, this, and this is, but let me tell you this.
Actually,
other stuff,
this is why you've gained 20 pounds.
I haven't gained 20 pounds. But anyway, it did say, these are the things. And then I said, okay, well, then you give me a recipe that's going to maintain the flavor and recommend how to make it healthier. Now, we haven't tried it, and we have in the past tried some of the recipes, and it was terrible. But some of them aren't. And so we may try that just for fun. But again, how many tools out there? If you would have Googled that, you'd have spent it. Well, you would have spent forever going through ads.
Well, and what I was thinking too is if I would have Googled what I was like thinking might be wrong with me, it would all be 100% read this paper, read this paper, read this paper.
Or it'd been,
Mayo Clinic,
horrible.
you're going to die, whatever.
Every time you Google something that's health, you're going to die.
It's something, yeah. So I'm glad that I didn't Google it. That's for sure.
Well, and again, it gives you a starting point. You shouldn't avoid going to the doctor. You shouldn't avoid common sense. It's a tool.
It caused me to go to the doctor.
It's a tool.
Yes.
And what bothers me about these I told you soers is, again, they're going to convince people that this is all hype. It's going to go away. Don't worry about it. You don't have to learn it, because we've seen it with teachers.
Mm-hmm.
They've even told us in the past the best way to deal with new technology is ignore it, because it'll change anyway.
Students are not ignoring it.
They're
getting so many referrals to the office at the high school. Kids that are getting accused of using it to cheat.
Well, and one of the first teachers that expressed concerns about that, we were talking with her the other day, or with her husband actually, because he works at the school too, and he was talking about the things she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that she's taken a very sensible approach to it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
If you hear all the clicking sounds, we have a storm going on.
Yeah.
And our little dog Maggie, she can hear it,
and
she does not like thunder.
No, she's
her
walking
little toenails
around.
are clicking all over.
Yeah,
she's trying to find a place to hide.
Getting a little antsy.
Anyway, I hope that everyone realizes that these tools are integrated into lots of things. You can do some really incredible things with them. Maybe one of these times we'll have an episode where we talk about nothing but one of those tools and what you might be able to do with those tools. I mentioned Agnes, what I'm doing lately. What I'm trying to do now, Agnes 1.0 is a standalone chatbot. What I'm trying to do now is integrate the AI functionality into a larger communication tool that I want to use anyway at the school district I'm trying to shift people away from emails so much. And so we're integrating.
There's so many email scams.
They're unbelievable. And so it's getting integrated in. We're integrating it into these tools, and it's back to that cost thing, because I can't afford to buy one. So we're having to get an open source free tool. We're having to modify the tool, and it's costing us a lot of effort. And the fact that myself and the guy that's helping me, Brett, we have a lot of technical background. So maybe we're able to do it. What are the schools going to do that don't?
I don't know.
They're just not
I'll
going to be able to
say
use the
it. I don't know
tool.
who else to say it, but I'll say it. The school system is lucky to have you because you have saved them so much headache and so much money just
Well, I mean,
by doing what you're doing.
the thing is that it's really difficult for me to find time to work. If I wasn't obsessed with this anyway, I don't know that I would spend as much time on it as I have spent,
Mm-hmm.
even though, but I enjoy doing it. So anyway, I really hope the company, people like Khan Academy, there's different companies out there, they realize the value of letting kids have access to it. And all the people that are the naysayers, that's all going to go away, could just stop. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand you want to get clicks. There was this one guy, I was watching his YouTube video, and it was obviously clickbait. He was like, this is another scam, AI is. And so I watched it, and all he talked about was previous scams like Bitcoin and stuff like that. He called a scam. But the one thing that bothered me, and he got really railed on in the comments, was he said, like the big data thing. Does he think that went away? People use data.
Just
What
because
do
you
you think
don't lose.
Facebook does with all
Yeah.
their data? What do you think how do you think Google gives you recommendations? All that big data stuff is them using that data.
Just because it's not in the news doesn't mean it's not being used.
Ooh, that rhymes.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Maybe I'll use that somewhere else. But it's true. I mean, if it's not on the front page, it doesn't mean that it's not still going on.
That's when it starts getting used the most.
Absolutely,
When it
because
moves off the front page.
that's when the people who are serious about it just keep being serious about it.
The stuff I'm doing right now is a lot harder than Agnes 1.0.
Yeah.
Agnes 1.0 was a standalone chatbot. It was a lot easier. We didn't have high expectations for accuracy, even though it actually did a really good job. It was just what's called a RAG model. The newer stuff, we're trying to increase the accuracy. We're trying to make it more useful, integrate it into an existing tool so you don't have to step outside your normal workflow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot harder. And that's what happens when it's not in the news anymore, is you start using it for everyday stuff. There was a headline that I had where MasterCard is using it for detecting fraud.
Please do. I mean,
you remember years ago when we used to deal with lots and lots of credit card transactions.
Mm-hmm.
We were with an online company,
mm-hmm.
and even back then they were trying to use machine learning, the
Right.
equivalent of machine learning, to try to
anything to
detect
flag it.
anything to flag it as fraud. We had a fraud bucket in the software we use
Mm-hmm.
that would flip things into it that had any discrepancies that looked
And then
like
a
fraud.
human had to look at
A
it.
human had to look at it.
Human had to look at it and
And the
verify.
problem is the humans had to look at a lot because a lot got flagged
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't have a sophisticated enough tool to really look at a lot of variables. Well, the tools have gotten considerably better over the year. To me, this is a natural evolution of that same tool set. I'm sure MasterCard agrees with that.
Yeah.
Of course, there also means they're going to have a lot less humans looking at it, which means somebody's probably going to lose their job.
I don't know if they're going to need a lot less humans to look at it, or if they're just going to be able to catch a lot more.
I hope so. With all the transactions they do,
Yeah.
you and I have had the credit card fraud problem.
I mean,
before,
they
too.
probably have these humans that are having to look at stuff like this, and they're going, "I can't look at all of this, so I'm just going to pass it on through. If it's not,
Yes,
if it's not over a certain dollar value or whatever,
It's true.
I'm just going to pass it on through." So hopefully, it's just going to make that human's life a little easier because he's
Yes.
going to have an assistant that's going to help them.
So
So-
we're about to run out of time.
Yes.
Please try these tools. Just see what you can do with them. They can do amazing things.
We were on a call the other day with a school out of San Antonio, and I was shocked at the number of people who had not even tried ChatGPT. And so that's the thing I told them immediately. I was like, look, as soon as we hang up, go get the free version of it, try it. Just have a conversation with it. That's all you need to do. Ask it a question, get an answer.
That's great.
So anyway, thank you guys for joining us. So sorry that we were a little late. My name is Maurie, and I'm here with Jim, and this is AI in Action. And we hope that you have a marvelous rest of the week.